It's week 10 of the 2025 NFL season. This is Captain, my captain, Club Fantasy's DFS Showdown breakdown of the NFL primetime games. Today's video, we're focusing on the week 10 Thursday night matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos, and we're breaking it all down next. Captain, my captain, this is Club Fantasy's DFS Showdown slate breakdown video series. I am your host, Joshua Hudson. He is Austin Amendolia, our DFS expert here at Club Fantasy. Please be sure to like this video if you're watching over on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're listening over on Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform. Throw us a follow. Never miss any of our DFS content. You can always catch our Sunday slate breakdown with Austin and Ryan Weiss on Friday mornings. We've got all the DFS goods. And be sure to hit the link in the description of this podcast and come over to our free Discord and talk all things fantasy football and really all things sports, because everybody at Club Fantasy loves not only DFS, but redraft and dynasty. Baseball, basketball, wrestling, you name it, we got it. But you're not here to listen to all of that. You're here to talk DFS and listen to us break down this week's Raiders versus Broncos matchup. Austin, our first category, Captain Chalk. As the name suggests, it's the chalky captain that everybody is likely to pick because they're just that damn good. And if you forgot how good Brock Bowers was because he'd missed the last 3 games in a bye week, he reminded you in week 9.
Yeah, he reminded you in a big way. I mean, coming off of a 46-point DraftKings performance, I think people are going to want to play Brock Bowers this week. I have a suspicion. I can't quite tell how much because usually you don't want to play tight ends too much in the captain spot, but Brock Bowers, he's effectively a receiver. And here's the thing. I'm never going to bet against Brock Bowers, but I could see this going either way. Last season against Denver, Bowers had a game where he went 8 for 97 yards and a touchdown. But he also had a game where he only went for 4 catches and 38 yards. Big difference between those two performances. In that first matchup, and it was week 5 of last season, he had a big 57-yard touchdown. So without that, he didn't do too much in their first matchup last year. Additionally, the past 4 weeks, Denver, they've been tough against tight ends. They held Jake Ferguson to 0 points. They significantly limited Mason Taylor. None of those guys are Brock Bowers. But they also gave up solid games to Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson, including a tight end for both. Truly could be a coin flip. Bowers, I think he can definitely always get there, of course. Not necessarily a smash spot where I'm saying like play him in the captain spot no matter what, unless you're playing cash. If you're playing cash, yes. But in tournaments, it's truly a coin flip. I don't think it's a bad play either way. I think you should be in your lineup, but I think you could probably get away with him in your captain spot or not in those tournament settings.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is that Denver has one of the better defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
The Raiders' offense is devoid of talent, really. I mean, outside of Bowers and Genty, like you don't have to really game plan to stop anybody. So then it becomes, are any of these other weapons going to step up and make a difference? But the one thing that we've seen from Denver this season, they play down to their competition. So they could very easily look at this and just say, if Brock Bowers beats us, he beats us, whatever. Like, our offense is good enough to take on the Raiders defense, right? Like, it's Thursday night. Crazier things have happened. To your point, Austin, like, we've seen the good games from Brock Bowers. They held him in check also once last season. It seems like when they face the good tight ends that they need to game plan for, they're going to shut them down. Whereas you get those sneaky matchups against, like, you know, with Daniel Bellinger or Theo Johnson, and it's just like, no, we don't have to game plan for that guy. You know, maybe they come through, but Bowers is good enough to where a 57-yard play can be that difference, right?
Exactly.
That's why you play him in your captain spot. Pleasant surprise, though. Ashton Genty had 5 targets last week. And they just traded Jacoby Myers. Raiders did. Trey Tucker's your wide receiver 1. If Genty sees a lot of volume here, maybe that pulls pressure away and puts more of that emphasis on, hey, Brock Bowers has that smash spot. So not mad at that choice there. Next category here is the Mutineers. These are your contrarian captain choices that offer some variety and upside in larger tournaments. Don't look now. We have a new target leader on the Denver Broncos, and his name is Troy Franklin.
Yeah, was it you that was making fun of Troy Franklin here recently?
Probably.
I think we talked about this on the Start Set Different Day show. Yeah, Troy Franklin, look, this is a classic game theory move for showdown slates. You should always ask yourself if the wide receiver 2 is the same chance of popping as the wide receiver 1 on any team, because people are less likely to play the wide receiver 2 in their captain spot. And I think in this case, like, yeah, in the past 3 weeks, Troy Franklin has had 10 targets, 8 targets, and 10 targets. He's scored multiple touchdowns in the game, so he has that 2 touchdown potential. So, like, of course, Courtland Sutton is a good play here, but Troy Franklin, frankly, has the same level of upside as Courtland Sutton, because Sutton doesn't really do that thing where he scores 25, 30-plus point games very often. And so with that, Franklin gives you an easy pivot to have the upside and get your lineup really different in those tournament settings.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference here really with Franklin and Sutton, Franklin's kind of their safe option, right? Like, he's only averaging 10.4 yards per carry. Sutton's the big play guy, 14.9 yards per catch. Since week 5, though, Raiders defense, I mean, look, the Raiders defense isn't good, but the slot, like the inside threats on opposing offenses are the ones that beat this defense more than outside threats. We've seen guys like Josh Downs beat this Raiders defense pretty well. Pittman did catch a touchdown in that game, but Franklin had 6 catches for 54 yards, and we've seen it in other matchups as well. This sets up really well for Troy Franklin to see yet another 8+ targets here, whereas Bo Nix will just kind of pick his spots with Franklin, throw a deep shot here or there, because that's kind of Courtland Sutton's game right now. Yeah. So I love this from a volume perspective. Like, don't sleep on the volume. Like, yeah, Troy Franklin doesn't have the same kind of stats as Courtland Sutton. Follow the volume. It's there. Speaking of volume, we've seen the big breakouts here from RJ Harvey, but J.K. Dobbins is the guy that's still seeing the rock.
Yes, RJ Harvey has benefited from touchdowns over the past 2 weeks, which I'm here for it. I was a big RJ Harvey guy, and I want to see him take over the role. But J.K. Dobbins still has the starting job. He's still getting the most touches, and touchdowns are fluky. It's hard to predict them. So yeah, RJ Harvey does make me nervous for this pick, but Dobbins is still that number 1. And to me, volume and efficiency is going to be more important in this spot, which leans in Dobbins' favor, and in particular because of the game environment. It's a 9.5-point spread. At least it was when I started the show sheet. It may have shifted now that Jacoby Myers is no longer a Las Vegas Raider, although let's be honest,
he was
probably didn't change that much. And Las Vegas has allowed over 25 points per game to the running back position since week 6. So if you want to put RJ Harvey in your captain spot, sure, whatever. Like, do it only in large field contest. If you're playing like 500 people or less, like, I don't think you need to do that. But I think Dobbins is a really good person to put in your captain spot if he scores a couple of touchdowns.
As of this recording, for the record, on ESPN Bet, Denver is 9.5-point favorites. Over under is 42.5.
Cool.
I mean, hasn't shifted at all. Jacoby Myers missing, not really that big of a deal. But here's the thing, and I mentioned this on heading into week 9. Raiders as a run defense, not great. Like, I was all in on Travis Etienne this past week. Still finished as the top 12 running back, but there were touchdown opportunities. Trevor Lawrence scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Geno Smith probably isn't doing that this week.
No.
Or Geno Smith, excuse me. Bo Nix. He could, sure, but he hasn't been the rushing threat this season that he was last year. Yeah. That is going to lend itself to some opportunities here for J.K. Dobbins. So I love that as a pivot if you want to go maybe away from the passing game and think that Denver just runs away with this. We talk about this all the time on the show. What story are you telling? If Dobbins is your captain, this is going to be a grinded out kind of game. So our next category is your first mates. These are because every captain needs a reliable crew, the standouts that help maximize your lineups. Speaking of Bo Nix.
Yeah, he is a great play in any lineup, but especially if you put in a Troy Franklin or a Cortland Sutton into your captain spot, or if you put one of the Vegas players in your captain spot, like Bo Nix is a great person to have on the other side. He just has a safe floor. He does have that rushing ability, even though he hasn't necessarily needed to use it as much this year. And I don't anticipate Denver grinding it out too much once they get ahead. Like Sean Payton's a little bit too petty for that. I think he is like still trying to prove why Bo Nix is the next Patrick Mahomes, and he's like this quarterback whisperer that knows how to pick quarterbacks. Jokes aside, though, Bo Nix has stolen 35 or more pass attempts in over half of his games this season, and 30 or more in all but 2 of his games. His current pass attempt line is at 32.5. That's on Underdog Fantasy. So I think that he will still get enough pass volume that he can get you. He will be a meaningful part of your lineup, whether or not this game like necessarily pops off and hits like a 50+ point total.
Well, whether he's the wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 2, Cortland Sutton deserves a spot here as well.
Yeah, and like part of this is because there's not a lot of good like sure bets in this matchup outside of the guys like Brock Bowers, Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix. So Cortland Sutton kind of ends up here by default because outside of Brock Bowers, he's probably the most reliable receiver in this matchup. To me, it's hard because there's just not a lot of consistent fantasy players outside of Bowers. So it does create an interesting dynamic for Cortland Sutton because on the one hand, he's a really boring pick. People might not want to play him. People don't like to draft Cortland Sutton in redraft leagues. And so he still is, but he still is the number 1 target for the Broncos, or the number 1 receiver for the Broncos. And so has the ability to pop and hit that ceiling, and is an important aspect of the offense, but he admittedly rarely hits if ever hits the 25+ point mark. So it does tempt me to move somewhere else. I would have said Jacoby Myers, but he's no longer there as a game theory move. So I feel mixed about Cortland Sutton. I think he does give you the safe floor, but if you're in a larger field tournament, I almost want to go somewhere else to have better upside.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to figure out which Broncos wide receivers are going to get the ball each week is really a freaking headache. Like we've seen Pat Bryant get involved. Troy Franklin obviously has taken a big step up. They've already ruled out Marvin Mims for this game. So I think that actually plays a big benefit to keeping the target centralized between, Franklin and Sutton. I mentioned earlier with the Troy Franklin, the middle of the field tends to be an issue for the Raiders. Maybe that lends itself to some Evan Ingram as well here. Not sure what his price tag is, but could be an option as well. Next category is going to be your deck scrubbers. These are the cheaper punt plays that can make a lineup based on one player limited opportunity. I want to bring this up really quick because I mentioned, telling the story when it comes to Dobbins as your captain. If Dobbins is a captain, I do think the Denver Broncos defense needs to be in your lineup 100%.
Yeah, I really agree with that, especially because what you're betting in there is that the Raiders offense just doesn't get it going. And the Denver Broncos, they've been able to rack up sacks this season, and the Raiders offensive line has been bad. So and we know Geno Smith will take sacks too as part of the thing. So this is a really good environment for the Broncos defense. And not only will Geno Smith take sacks, but he puts the ball in harm's way pretty consistently. He's known to fumble the ball, throw interceptions. So it's a really positive matchup for the Broncos. And also given the total line at 42.5 and it being a 9.5 point spread, that means Las Vegas is projected to score 16.5 points. It's not a lot. So it's not a bad bet. It's not like you're worried that the Raiders are going to put up like a 30 spot on the Broncos and kill any fantasy output that you're trying to get out of them. So I really like it. And a lot of builds, but especially if you're betting on J.K. Dobbins.
So we spent a lot of time crapping on the Raiders. Let's give them a little love in this section. Let's start with the next man up mentality here with Dante Thornton Jr. Obviously, with Jacoby Myers out the door, that's going to open up more outside routes. You've got Trey Tucker on one side. Dante Thornton Jr. should be a guy that should, quote unquote, be a guy here that steps up and hopefully earns himself more targets.
Yeah, well, and the thinking here too is that Jacoby Myers was lining up in the slot a decent amount for the Raiders, And that's a really good way to attack this Denver Broncos defense because if you look at the matchups, Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, they rarely line up in the slot. They only have combined between the two of them, they've only lined up in the slot 42 times this season, which when you consider there's already been 800 snaps combined between the two of them, it's not a lot of times. So I was looking at Jacoby Myers originally as somebody I'd be interested in large field tournaments because of that slot share. Well, Dante Thornton is the next guy up in that category. Now, Tyler Lockett, he also will line up in the slot a lot, but he just got to Vegas. So I'm not sure that they're going to be deploying him enough for him to get the volume there. But Dante Thornton, we saw him get action and get steamed up in the preseason. And so I feel like he has the best potential to line up and to step up into that role pretty consistently.
I was really curious because I felt like this would be a prime opportunity for Jack Besh to,
I wondered about that too.
Earning some roles here. Dante Thornton Jr. has only 19 targets on the season. Not so great. Less than 10% of those have come out of the slot. 5 targets, 0 catches.
I had him at 40% in the slot.
Really? 40% of his routes?
Yes.
Okay, I was just looking at targets. That's all I was looking at.
Okay, so I think that this is a really good distinction to get into. Yeah, okay. He's on pass snaps, he's lined up in the slot 41% of the time. Jack Besh has been 33% of the time. So Thornton has 65 snaps in the slot. Besh has 26. But I think it's a good flag because I feel like I thought about Besh too, and the only reason I didn't go to him is I thought Thornton would be ahead of him.
Yeah, and that's fair. And you know what? Right now, the numbers are suggesting that. And I think the biggest thing is going to be how quickly is Tyler Lockett earning targets. Geno Smith has that has that history with Tyler Lockett. He comes Tyler Lockett chose to go there, play with Geno, play with Pete Carroll. So, are they going to let a veteran come in and take snaps from a rookie when clearly your season's not going anywhere? Or are they going to say, you know what, we're trying to save face, we want to win games, blah, 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 and then you just park your rookie. So, but staying on the Raiders side, we've talked about Brock Bowers. Chip Kelly likes to run a lot of 12 personnel. Michael Mayer should be somebody in consideration here.
Yeah, and we saw him continue to get targets last week, even with Brock Bowers back in the lineup. Obviously not the ridiculous volume that Bowers got, but basically the thinking here too is if you're not playing Brock Bowers, you might as well play Michael Mayer because what you're saying is Bowers is not meaningful for your lineup, but the other tight end will be because Las Vegas uses the tight ends. So if Bowers isn't it, it's got to be Mayer. And Denver also, we talked about earlier, they gave up touchdowns to 2 different tight ends against the Giants, and both Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson. And that's another team that is relying really heavily on their tight ends right now. Again, the other thing we mentioned earlier with Surtain and Riley Moss lining up on the outside more often than not, Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers are not going to line up outside. They're going to be lining up in line or in the slot. And so that gives them more chances to have more positive matchups. I also don't mind playing both of the tight ends for the Raiders, especially in large field tournaments. People aren't really going to want to do that. So I think Mayer should just definitely be in your player pool for this game.
All right, friendly reminder, you can come and play these showdown slates against us at Club Fantasy over on DraftKings. So hit the link in the description of this podcast. Come play against Austin, myself, other members of the Club Fantasy team, but also others in the community. It's a lot of fun. Try to take our money. Sometimes you win. Most times you don't. That's okay. You know what? Maybe this will be your week. I promise. Right. Our last category is the Kraken, the lineup trap that sinks the ship. Again, we've spent a lot of time shitting on the Raiders. Not a lot going on. Maybe we can see something from Trey Tucker.
Yeah, I'm not betting on it this week because I've harped on this a lot already. Trey Tucker is the X receiver. So he's going to be the one drawing coverage from Pat Surtain or Riley Moss. I don't think Trey Tucker is beating those guys. Pat Surtain's the best cornerback in the league. If Trey Tucker sees Pat Surtain, he's not seeing the ball. And maybe he sees it once when he lines up against Riley Moss.
I'll tell you what, I think it's wild to me that a guy that is 5'9" on a good day runs outside almost 92% of the time. Like, that's just wild to me. It's bonkers.
Are you telling me that the Vegas Raiders may not have constructed their roster in a logical manner?
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit at all. Like, it's dumb fuck stupid. But I'll tell you what, though. Here's the thing with Trey Tucker. We've seen the kind of pop games.
Yes.
Does that match the salary, though, once every 9 weeks? I don't think so.
Yeah, not for this game.
Absolutely not. All right, friendly reminder, if you're watching us over on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'd greatly appreciate it. It helps us continually grow. If you're listening over on Apple, Spotify, any other podcast platform, give us a follow. We drop our Sunday slate DFS breakdown with Austin and Ryan Friday mornings. Hit us up for any and all DFS advice. You can find the link to our Discord. It is 100% free. Plenty of advice over there as well. Hit that link and come and join us. Until then, he's Austin Amendolia, our DFS expert here at Club Fantasy. I'm Joshua Hudson. You can follow along with everything we do at Club Fantasy across the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL, clubfantasyffl.com. We will see everybody next week.